Welcome to my sacred space. I've been sharing about intuition and guidance and light frequency, and today I want to touch on the familiar. And I want to share with you how being guided by my spirit council in this dimension has taught me to understand how sometimes this dimension in our personal lives or in other capacities will reveal the opposite of what can and should be grasped. As an example to you, sometimes the people in our lives generate a environment that unconsciously matches their place of familiar, because the familiar to many in humanity is considered safe, understandably so. The environment of a relationship or a family relationship, etc., when there's more than one individual, that if there's an individual in that environment that feels safer because of their childhood in a certain type of consciousness and environment, they're going to attempt and sometimes accomplish creating that environment in and bringing it with them from their childhood into their new family. As an example to you, growing up, the environment that I was in was very negative, and what I came to understand from Spirit for and over a very long period of time, certainly this understanding was not immediate nor overnight. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I had ample opportunity to experience it to the degree that my guides had ample opportunity to help me understand it from a different perspective. So growing up, that negativity in my environment came from the familiarity of the environment and individuals in it that was different than peace and calm. And so one individual in particular was creating a lot of chaos and verbal, well, that's not the right word, wait. Verbal abuse. And like I shared in previous videos, and if you haven't seen those, I invite you to go back and watch them, that a lot of what was verbally shared with me, had I not had spirit or my spirit council's input, I would not be who I am today or have the understanding that I do. But sometimes the physical situations that we find ourselves in our humanity have the ability to impact us, whether they are full of light or whether they are full of darkness. And in one particular experience, after listening to years and years of how I am not wanted, how well, we won't give life to these words, but pretty negative input, bullying to the highest and strongest degree. After listening to that for years and hearing Spirit talk about the opposite, so transmuting, and by the way, when you're told something extremely dark and negative, and then you're told something of light, in the universal law of free will, you still have to choose which one you will allow yourself to embody and represent yourself as. So there were moments where I chose the light, and there were moments where the darkness for a temporary amount of time was the choice. And so I experienced both intensely. And clearly I chose light and love. But in one experience in particular, it was not only Spirit not only told me how to translate what was happening to me, but showed me. So this one individual was coming at me and really eliciting as much negativity as you possibly could. And as I was a child, I think I was 9 or 10, and as I stood there staring at this individual coming towards me with volumes of negativity, something happened. And what happened is that instead of me hearing their words and applying them to myself, I heard the truth of what was behind those words. And what was behind those words was, hate me. Please hate me. Hate me as much as you can. Please help me to create in an environment of hate, because that is all that I know, and that is all that is familiar to me. Whoa. Makes me emotional. Even now. Because what I experienced in that moment was such deep and unending compassion for that individual coming at me. In the realization that this individual only knew hate from where they came from, and so much so that it was the only environment that they found familiar or felt safe in, or not or, but and that they could manage in. So any other environment of love or light or joy or peace was terrifying to this individual. And I didn't understand that or know that. And I never would have, were it not for that moment where I, with Spirit's help, witnessed and experienced and heard the words behind the words. And had I not heard the words behind the words, the truth behind the words, I would have never understood that individual's experience. So, what I'm saying to you is not that there is an excuse for abuse. There never is. Abuse, bullying, and negativity is always wrong. But what I'm saying to you as well is, from a spiritual higher perspective, that is a perspective that is always, always with us from our soul's knowing, that I was able to understand the pain and the suffering and the actions that were imposed upon me for years prior to that experience that I just shared, and way beyond it. But I was no longer affected by it at the degree and level that I had been, because I was able to understand that it was coming from their pain, like I said. Never stay in an abusive relationship or environment, ever. You deserve love and light and praise and joy and to be lifted up and celebrated. And if not by the people around you, take my word for it. I stand here in my humanity as proof that if you have no one beside you or with you or to understand you or to be there for you in a human form, which I did not, that spirit is there to hold you up, to envelop you, and to be there for you until others can in human form. So please, no mistake whatsoever. This video was not about accepting abuse. It was not even about giving it permission. It was about compassion, and it was about understanding the deeper nature, but it was certainly not on any level to excuse it or to make it okay. It is not. I love you, and you are worth it. Thank you for joining my journey. Blessings.